Hey everybody, I just did an interview with Grant Stone. I've known them for a while. Wyatt at Grant Stone has been to the tannery several times. They make amazing footwear. Thought it would be interesting to go over the interview I did with them. It was actually a sort of email interview, but I'd like to sort of elaborate on it a bit. I'm going to start just reading their questions, reading my responses, and add on to it. The first thing that they asked me was, the superior quality of Horween leather does not go unnoticed by the Grant Stone team. For the unfamiliar, what makes Horween unique? The Horween Leather Tannery, based in Chicago, has been in continuous operation since 1905. We still tan leathers using the same methods and techniques. And I call the tannery a working museum, and that is a fact. Some of the machines that we have are unbelievable relics, really, from the late 1800s. For example, there's a splitting machine that every side of leather that we make still goes through that machine every day. And on that note, it's really important to know that we have a huge staff of maintenance workers at the tannery. They're amazing at what they do. You'd be surprised at how hard it is to find capable maintenance people these days. So shout out to them. A majority of the machines are 100 plus years old, and many of the processes are done by hand with highly experienced workforce. I'd estimate that the average employee at Horween has been there 30 years. We just had a guy named Otis, a sorter at the tannery, and he ran the shipping department. He retired after working there for 50 years. And I don't know of anybody anywhere that's been at a job for 50 years. So I think that says a lot to the ownership of Horween. It's really like a family over there. With over 100 years of experience in leather tanning, they make some of the finest leathers in the world: Shell Cordovan, Chrome Excel, Essex, Dublin, Latigo, and hundreds of others. Initially, Horween was famous for using Shell Cordovan in razor strops. So I started working at the tannery 2006. So it's been almost 13 years now. And something that I didn't realize, and I don't think a lot of people understand, is that there are many different leather products that a tannery can make. Before working there, I didn't really understand. Like, I thought leather was just leather. But really, you can tan leather in a way that gives you performance characteristics that you might desire, like waterproofing or fireproofing. But there's also things like more obvious things like color. And something Horween does is test the boundaries a bit of what a leather can feel like. It's a lot about the aesthetics or the sensory things. I don't know. It's really hard to describe without having it in your hands or being around it. But anybody that owns a pair of Chrome Excel boots, for example, or Shell Cordovan wallet that I make, you can immediately smell it. It sort of smells right. I think it's unique to leather. I try to make an analogy to wood. There's many different trees that have different characters and colors of the wood, and the grain's all a little bit different. And from tree to tree, it's different. And you can sort of finish that wood in different ways as well. So leather is not just one thing. You can make different things called tannages, and then each of those tannages could be finished in separate ways. So I'll probably go make a nice video at the tannery about that. But anyways, Horween was originally famous for making Cordovan in 1905. That's how they got their start. It's my understanding that Isidore, the founder, went to the World's Fair and met some tanneries from around the world, and he thought that he could do it better. I think he succeeded and started making the pit tanned Shell Cordovan at the tannery here in Chicago, which I'm about a mile away from right now. So he started his own company in 1905, making the leather for the razor strop. And I go on to say here, in 1905, many men shaved with a straight razor and sharpened the blade with the Shell Cordovan strop. It's really more like honing the blade, knocking the point to be more precise. And then shortly after they started that company, sadly for him, Gillette came or popularized the safety razor. So with the advent of that safety razor, they had nowhere to go with all this Cordovan. They quickly found an exceptional use for the Cordovan in footwear. Cordovan is extremely durable, it has a great luster, and it's porous and breathable. That's really important to talk about. I believe 3M tried to knock off Cordovan in, again, like around 1920, 1930. And they had a product that looked really, really nice, and the tannery got scared. What ended up happening was that whatever rubberized thing that they came up with was not breathable. So people had footwear that looked amazing, and it had great characteristics for shoes, like not creasing, but it didn't breathe at all. So people just had really gross, sweaty feet. Anyways, many people have had pairs of Horween leather shoes, and they get decades of use out of them. I think this is topically important because a lot of people talk about going green or green technology, and I think all that's great. I think we need to go green, to put it simply. But what I think people don't understand is the longevity of a product. People that buy Horween boots or shoes or wallets from me, watch straps that we make, they tend to last longer than something you'd pick up at Walmart. And that's not to say that Walmart or Target or any big box store doesn't carry a great product, but the trend seems to be to buy something, use it for a season, and then throw it out and get a new one. Customers of mine that have had pairs of shoes that their grandparents wore, and they just keep putting new soles on. So you can re-sole these shoes maybe 5 or 6 times. And I think that that's a really important part of the equation that people don't really consider. A square meter of leather takes, I don't know, a bunch of electricity to make and a bunch of water to make, but you don't consider how long you're getting a use out of that product. The second question that they asked me, you started a timeless wallet design for yourself and your circle. That design took off, and today you and your team are busy making several wallet styles, watch straps, belts, and many other leather goods. What would you like to make in the future? And actually I have so this was the first design that we made. It's the Fat Herbie, actually made in my living room in 2011, and I'm still carrying it. The room I'm in right now has a bunch of different wallets that I could use, and I have used, and many times in the past I've used multiple at a time, but I always end up going to this. Fat Herbie's awesome. Grant Stone actually carries some of the special colors on their website, which I'm really flattered by. What would I like to make in the future? To be honest, we love making wallets, and we actually have a hard time keeping up with the current demand for wallets. I think it would be exciting to use leather in more home goods, or basically on anything that you can touch and feel. I'm inspired by leather antiques, for example. I think it would be really awesome to make a wood and leather sling chair. So these are little bits of hints at what I'm trying to do. Obviously I love leather. I think there's a unique thing about touching something that it's like pleasant to touch, something that you look forward to using. And I think there's a real opportunity for me and other companies to make more things out of leather. Like I mentioned in the example there with the leather sling chair, there's a local partner of ours that we've done some projects with. He's actually trying to get us to work on that new design. And those sling chairs are, how long have they've been around for decades. I think people still being interested in that decades later is a real testament to that type of product. So I think it'd be cool to do something like that. The next question was, did you ever try creating a style that did not work? Okay. I love this question because the original concept for Ashland was we had all these sheets of leather that were different textures, different colors, different smells. We would be working there during the day and we would see all these beautiful types of leather, and then we'd notice the customers, all they would be making was men's footwear. Dan and I looked at that and we said, I think this is great. Why doesn't half of the population also use this? So we naively thought it would be smart to make women's bags. So we actually made several and we sold a few, but we quickly realized that we didn't understand women at all. And that was probably a flaw in that initial concept. We quickly changed up to making just wallets, and the Fat Herbie I pulled out was the project I was working on while we were making bags. That's pretty much what I responded there. Dan and I, before we started the company, we were both individually making leather things. He was making a purse for his wife for their anniversary, which was really cool. He hand laced it all. It took him so long to make. We kind of clicked at that moment that we might be onto something. So that's how Ashland started. The next question was, which part of the construction process is the most delicate? I'm actually sitting in front of the blue machine and the brown machine. Those are the two most challenging processes that we have at Ashland. The blue machine is what's called a bell skiver, and it has a little blade. It looks like a bell that rotates really fast, and it thins down little pieces of leather. It's really hard to get that set right and to take off just a little bit of material. And the brown machine is a splitting machine, so that has a blade and you run the leather into it. You can thin down more area of material to a precise thickness. Both of those are really challenging to use. And actually this brown machine, I was talking earlier about the splitting machine at the tannery from 1890, is the same principle as this brown machine where we're thinning down leather. So the one at the tannery works amazingly, and it has so for the last 120 years. It's interesting to me that even today, the current splitting machine that we have here is still the same principle. So that's why they haven't changed anything. There are more modern splitters these days, but Horween figures if it's not broke, don't fix it. So Anyways, I wrote, all of our wallet crafting steps take a high level of understanding. Even knowing which pieces are appropriate to cut takes a good amount of leather and construction knowledge. That's really important to know. If you're a leather crafter and watching this, take your time to really understand leather. Put some tests in to see what rips. You can take, here's a weird piece of leather. If you just cut a slit of it and try to rip it apart, it will give you a sense of how strong the tensile strength is. And you'll notice when you thin down the leather on the splitter I have back here behind me, or even the skiver, you'll notice that the more you take off, the weaker the leather becomes. This understanding is really important because without knowing that, you might be making something that's just gonna rip and fall apart. Shell cordovan, for example, will come in a range of thickness, roughly 6 ounces to 2 ounces, a few millimeters to maybe 1 millimeter or less. In order to make some of the patterns on the wallets that we have to pick the naturally thin part. And we don't like to split down because that weakens the integrity of the leathers. You have to really understand a lot of these little details, and even where you cut a pattern piece on the hide, it might stretch more towards the backbone or the bend of the hide, and it stretches a little bit more in the bellies, and they stretch in different ways, in different directions. Probably should talk more about that in another video, but that's also really interesting. Next question, we salute Ashland's warranty policy. Nothing screams confidence in a product like line quite like a lifetime guarantee. What advice would you recommend to designers and manufacturers looking to offer such a guarantee? The biggest advice I would give to people is to stand behind your product. Don't screw people over. I actually, years ago, I was living with a couple guys in a house. We were moving and we needed to rent a truck rental. So I go down to the truck rental place and they go, yeah, walk around the truck and note wherever it's dinged up, and then we can document it. Start pointing out every little thing. And just because I was poor and couldn't afford to pay for this truck if they wanted to blame me for it. So, and he's like, you know what, we don't have to write down every little thing. And I go, okay, well, you know, I don't want to be liable for this. He just looked me square in the eyes and he said, we don't rip people off. And that has really stuck with me. And I try to do that same thing with Ashland today. And that's what I would suggest everybody does to everybody they know. Another question here was, the Fat Herbie is our personal favorite. How did you determine the dimensions for the Fat Herbie wallet? Well, that's a good question. I have a Fat Herbie. All I did was take the cards and stack them like this. So instead of layering all the cards on top of each other, we just spread out the cards over more surface area. I think this exterior bill slot on the back of the wallet is something that wasn't done before. To my knowledge, we're the first company to do bill slots on the exterior, and it actually makes it quite easy to get cash in and out the back. That's how the wallet came about. I've found over the years now, people have found extra uses for the size of the wallet. There's a friend of mine that actually puts his passport in the back of the wallet too. So that's really cool. I actually do that now when I travel around and I don't want to carry my passport holder. What has been your favorite part in creating Ashland? You were already well practiced in Horween Leathers. Did shifting to a product development role change your approach? My response was, my favorite part about creating Ashland is seeing all the different colors, textures, and leather types age over time. In fact, this was the whole reason we started Ashland. At many points in time, I was wearing 2 or 3 wallets just to see how the leather aged. Next question. Your work is a natural complement to Grant Stone's boots and shoes. We wouldn't dare to try to create anything similar when you do this so well. So it goes without saying, we are excited to begin offering Ashland leather goods for our community of enthusiasts. What are you excited about for 2019? And as I say this, it is almost 2019. It's December 8th. We're really busy here at Ashland making all these wallets. I'm really excited about this mystery box thing we got going on. It seems like people are thrilled about getting something that they're not sure what it's going to be. And we've actually had a lot of people say that they're happy about the mystery box because it takes the choice away from them, which I think is interesting. I think that might mean that I have too many options. So I'm thinking about reducing the amount of options and then just doing special limited releases of random crazy things I see at the tannery, because again, the goal is an outlet for the crazy leathers that we make every day and the experiments we get to try, because we're coming up with so much great stuff that we don't have an outlet for it, and it's great to see how that stuff wears in. But my text answer was, I'm excited to keep doing what we've been doing for the last 7 years. I get a thrill every morning to go make the world's best leather at Horween, and I can't wait for the evenings where I get to cut, sew, and make the best leather into amazing wallets. This is our new facility, I guess you would call it. We bought this little condo next to the tannery that's our current shop for Ashland, and it's so satisfying to walk into your own company's building and be able to do everything in-house. So that's another thing that I think we do that a lot of people don't do, is make everything yourself. We literally finished our day-to-day work at the tannery, put a leather in the car and drive it over here, start cutting down in the basement, and sew everything behind me. We have all our materials here. I think it's a really special thing we got going on, and I guess I'm just really excited to keep doing it. This was the first video I've ever done like this, so let me know what you think. I love talking about this stuff. I have a lot of ideas and more content that I can do, but if you have things that you want to hear about, just let me know. I'll do this again. All right, take care, guys. Bye.